It's very worrisome that Microsoft is just flippantly saying, so we're just going to start copying your voice to create a voice profile, and then we'll save that information and we assure you it will be safe like everything else. And just ask AT&T what that means to their users.
This is my latest invention, a device that lets anyone sound exactly like me. Good news, everyone. I'm a horse's butt. I am. That's not good news at all, you little...
On this episode, we discuss speaker recognition and PTZ cameras, all that and more on EDTech. EDTech episode 120, you better recognize. Hello, AV friends, and welcome to another episode of EDTech. This episode, we have with us part of our usual panel of awesome higher ed AV professionals, Ernie Bailey.
Hello, Erin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Ernie. How are you?
Doing very good.
Good. And today with us, we have a special guest joining us for this episode, Dugan McShain from Drexel University.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, welcome, Dugan. And tell everyone what you do over there.
I do the best I can. I am one of Rob's. Rob Raspberry is the man, and I'm one of his fix-it guys. I'm his closer, so he sends me in when something has gotten snake bit, or basically anytime there's a lump in the carpet, I'm the one with the hammer to nail it down. I do the installs for him. We do consulting, so we work out of the central IT department to kind of give an AV handle on everything that's involving Zoom and video production and construction and buying new TVs and all of that jazz. We also have a podcasting studio, which we handle too. So we wear a lot of hats in our department.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like you're a guy that gets things done.
We do.
All right. And then as for me, I'm the Higher Ed AV Media AV Pro of the Year, the chair of HETMA, and the hostess with the mostest, Erin Maher-Moran, coming at you from Johns Hopkins University on the Homewood campus. So let's just jump right into the stories that we read for this week. The first story comes to us from AV Magazine. Microsoft expands AI speaker recognition in Teams rooms. This one was written by Guy Campos. So Microsoft, putting some effort into Teams. What do we all think about this one?
I sometimes think it may be too much, some of their recognition. I like being able to recognize the shape, know that you've got a presenter, but I'm still not real comfortable with it recognizing me as the person. I understand how that helps with transcription services and, putting your name up, that's one thing, I would like us to be able to do when we're doing some of our webinars or panel discussions that we put up, is as opposed to putting up the site name or the name of just the host, change the name on the display to who is speaking. So I kind of like it, but I'm still, I don't like that much AI in my life.
I can definitely dig it. The amount of threat actors that are using voice recognition software with just a snippet of your voice, they can recreate entire patterns in conversations. It's very worrisome that Microsoft is just flippantly saying, so we're just going to start copying your voice to create a voice profile, and then we'll save that information and we assure you it will be safe like everything else. And just ask AT&T what that means to their users, which means a whole hell of a lot.
Right. Yeah. Very timely in that I just got an email from AT&T that was like, hey, guess what? Your data, kind of.
Even if it's saved locally, which some of these say they're saved locally, they're saved, which means they're retrievable. And you never know when you're going to get hacked, when you're going to download ransomware by accident, or someone else at your organization can download some ransomware. We have 12,000 employees and 5,000 students. Someone's always getting some kind of warning.
Right. Because in the article, they're talking about, uh, you can easily create a voice profile at, ms.voice profile, whatever. But then they go on to say, and then for organizations, your IT admin needs to enable voice enrollment. So it's not just a simple, oh, we'll figure out who you are. It's, don't worry, Big Brother's watching, and the IT department will enable the voice recognition. And they don't say when they're going to stop recognizing your voice. They're not going to, if passive conversations are being trimmed for snippets, or if all of your data that you're searching for is then retrievable and then combined with a voice profile. Well, now all of a sudden you're able to create a user profile that not only has all of my location data, all of my user history, my chat logs from Teams, my documents from Word and Excel, and it's too much information to be in one place.
I appreciate that there is the layer there that the IT department has to enable it, because I feel like there's so many, at least in higher ed, there's so many departments that IT departments that are so worried about cybersecurity that they're like, you know what? No, we're not going to even enable this. I know there's so many different features that are now coming out in the different conferencing platforms that have AI components to them, and most of it's not getting enabled because of those fears of not sure, where that data may be ending up or who might get to it. So we're just going to say no.
Yeah. We did a test bed with Otter AI that was disastrous because all of a sudden they started realizing that Otter was accessing calendar appointments from years from now, that we couldn't get rid of it, that once one user started using it, it was just in the meeting. And it created an alternate profile for that user that was like, don't worry, we'll log in for you even if you're not attending this meeting. If this meeting's on your schedule, we'll just show up and record it so that we can inform you later. And so random Otterbots were popping into meetings that someone had scheduled and then canceled. And other people were like, well, what's this robot doing here? It became so ridiculous. We basically had to block all of the the IP addresses from that town in Oregon that they operate out of, because it was almost ridiculous how much it crept into the system and started just recording and recording.
Right. Yeah. I love the direction that the AI development and stuff is, and the tools that it's supposed to make our lives easier. And I appreciate that, but at what cost? That's, I think, the thing that is going to have to be balanced out, before that, really is something I think that a lot of people will feel comfortable with adopting. And especially being able to then, if someone did by chance get a hold of that voice profile and then use it for nefarious reasons, just approving things using your voice. It's super cool, but
Yeah. I mean,
Not
there was an article on like CBS that I read the other day because try to stay up as much as possible on cybersecurity and what the threat actors are doing because it's such an ever changing landscape. And it's also fascinates me how they're staying ahead of the game or how quickly they adapt their game and how slowly some of my users adapt. Right. So like
right.
they they're with a 5 minute with a 5 second clip of my voicemail signature, they could call my grandparents and tell them that I got into an accident and I'm in jail and they need to send money, and they can do that with apps that you can download through the App Store. You know that there's the AI is so ubiquitous that it's making it that much easier to fool people into parting with their money, which is why it's $1 trillion business stealing American money and sending it abroad.
Right. Absolutely. It is so scary, and I feel like it's hard for companies to keep up. So even just to put out the education to be like, yeah, be leery of these scenarios and whatnot. Yeah, it's just it's getting harder and harder to get it in front of.
But don't worry, they always say, "Don't worry about it. We've got it. Your information is super secure, and no one would ever use any of these files against you." And then, I'm sure there's no 0 days waiting behind the wings, and all of the three-letter agencies of the government don't have their stockpile of 0 days that they're using currently. You know, Try to be positive.
Like, our data is secure until it's
Right.
not. Well, all right. Let's move on to the next story. And it's on AVNation.tv. Robotic eyes, pan tilt zoom cameras. And this one was written by Robert Heron. So PTZ cameras in education, like they kind of go hand in hand these days, I feel, especially with the push for hybrid learning and whatnot. But what in higher ed? What do we need? What do we have? What are we looking forward to?
I think we're seeing, I mean, really some of the same stuff we were just talking about, with their recognition of the presenter or whatever. Uh, a PTZ camera that can recognize the main presenter and track them as they walk back and forth across the stage or in front of a classroom makes it feel a little bit more personable to the remote audience or to the recording that we may be doing. And it means we don't have to have technicians sitting there running cameras because I really do not have the personnel to do that. And they're becoming more and more affordable. So, we are using them. And the newer ones that we're using go right back to what we were talking about. They can recognize the particular person. We can have someone standing at a lectern, someone stand up there beside them, and it will stick with the initial person. It won't switch over if the second person starts moving or anything like that. Goes as far as if we're doing one of these, new speaker every 10 minutes and the first speaker goes and sits down in the audience, it parks on them until we release it, and then it goes back to the home position and finds the next person. So, but yeah, like I said, they're becoming more and more affordable. They're talking about some 7-figure robotic cameras in this article, and I don't see us putting those in a classroom.
I'd love to have that budget.
Yes.
Right.
Even if I had that budget, it'd be a long time before I got to that particular item, I think. But we're seeing, the features in the low end ones. We're paying less than $1,000 for some of these now that are, giving me a good 1080p image.
Mhm.
uh, and they're, like I said, able to track, intelligent tracking, um, and providing signals that, you know, uh, multiple formats at the same time. They'll automatically stream. So I, they're commonplace in my rooms. You know, we're on probably our third generation of them now, and we're real happy with what we're seeing, and we're deploying them in any new room we're putting out. You know, used to we put cameras in specific rooms. Now, I mean, if I'm just putting in a small huddle room, it's got some sort of camera in it anyway. So,
Yeah, I think they're pretty ubiquitous at our school. We've been installing them for about, I would say, 10, 15 years at Drexel. And any of the rooms that have a podium and that need to have a hybrid sort of content. Um, I think they end up confusing a lot of people, and the bells and whistles. Again, it's one of those. I'm fine. Just I want the camera to just sit there, show the full room. I'll be a little tiny person in the corner. Don't move the camera, because a lot of times the first thing that people ask me after I've installed this amazing system with bells and whistles, like, when I put in that Poly X50 with speaker view and it can cut up the screen and make it real dynamic and make it look like a 1970s kung fu movie with zooming in and out, and they how do I turn that off immediately because it's too much. They just want the simplicity of, I want to know that I'm not going to look weird. I want to know that the camera's not going to cut on me while I'm talking or move away or frame me with somebody else sitting next to me who's picking their nose. Like, I know with the way the camera looks, and I like it that way. Coming from, uh, you know, corporate AV, that was pretty much the standard. Like, you could sell as many bells and whistles, and it'll track you. And this new PTZ camera setup by Vadio has X, Y, and Z, and it'll follow you on the X-axis. And these new biamp beamforming microphones that can pinpoint whoever in the audience is talking, and their chair will light up and it'll raise them up, and immediately half of that is like, all right, throw that out the window. Nobody wants, So I still think we're about 2-3 years away from the tracking technology being where it needs to be comfortable for people to use. And I think the companies up and down the board still have 2-3 generations of products before it's going to be something that I look for in a device. Just like I'm not shopping for cars right now for their self-driving capabilities. It's nice to play around with when I'm in cruise control on the highway, but if I'm on city streets and there's buses next to me, I want to be in control. I want to drive my bus.
And it's funny though, because a lot of the same sort of technology in the auto tracking cameras is also what's in the cameras on self-driving cars to make that like recognition. But yeah, it's like, and the scary thing is that we won't even trust it in a classroom where it's not going to do any sort of harm.
yeah.
Maybe to your mental health, but not to physical. But
We put our first tracking cameras in 2010, and we left them in the auto tracking mode for about a week and a half.
Right.
Because if somebody got, it was one of those dual camera ones where one was a real wide angle and it tried to find what it thought was the main presenter or whatever. And if someone walked into the corner of the screen, it would quickly move over. Or if somebody was moving on the stage, it was very jerky. We had people actually getting sick watching the video and ask us to turn it off. So we parked it on, we went to the little mat that you put down at the lectern, So if they stood on the mat, it got a tight shot. If they stepped off of it, it went to a wide shot. And that was the extent of the tracking that we did until COVID. And now we're seeing some better tracking. We're even seeing it in the lower end sound bars that we're getting, and it's fair.
Exactly.
We are
It
putting in
works,
some
mostly.
the more professional cameras that we're putting in the room, and like I said, there's still. I'm surprised at the price. We're doing a great job of tracking enough that we are defaulting it to the tracking on. We put on the touch screen in the room, you can turn off the tracking. But it will, if the system restarts or anything, it goes back to its on in the default mode.
Which cameras are you using?
We're using PTZ optics.
Okay.
We did a demo of, one of my guys saw them at Infocom last year, and they sent us a demo, let us beta test some of their newer firmware, and it was enough that we've switched over to that. I'm also the budget guy, so I was really impressed when I saw the price on those cameras. When I can get a superior product for lower price, I'll go for it any day of the week. If it's something we can rely on. My programmer is happy with the way he's able to communicate with it, and my support team is very happy with not having to run to the classroom to adjust the camera all the time.
Yeah, that is so important. Being able to have the other, yes, the automatic control is great, but to be able to also have that manual side that programmers can easily put into a control system program to be able to do those presets or whatnot, that might be a little more useful than some of the other things is so important. Because even with the evolution of the product, of the PTZ products, it seems like a lot of times we are still in the same spot where they want those presets, they want the podium shot, they want the wide shot. It's not there yet. And I don't know if part of it is, I had actually did the last course that I took for my master's was, my final project was about AI improving auto tracking cameras. And one of the things that I found in my research was bias in the training models. So with a group of us who are all relatively fair skinned, not a problem with tracking, but people of color, a little bit more of an issue when it came to that. So I think as the models get better, better results will happen. But until then, we probably are going to keep those AI features turned off.
I think a large portion of the software and hardware out there ends up relying on a very thin and narrow data set. Having a beard makes me unrecognizable to a lot of facial recognition systems because all of a sudden it just sees a balloon head and goes, oh, we don't know what to do with that. Glasses, anything that's outside, wearing a hat. It looks like I'm trying to be an incognito right now, but anything outside of their narrow band of, these were the developers that we tested it on, and this is our data set.
Well, we worked with some cameras that were apparently tested by people with beards, because when we got our team in, the guys with the bigger beards were tracked better than the clean-shaven people.
Yeah, I'd like to see how what their training modules are, because I know that every time we prove that we're not a robot, we're helping train a lot of those camera recognition programs in, that's a bicycle, this is not a bicycle. There's a car, this is not, that's why half of the I'm not a robot training things is, what's a stoplight look like? What is a bridge? What is a bus? And so, yeah, that's how much data we're putting into those training modules, and you can see we're still not there yet. Like, it's going to take tons of data in order to reach that point.
We are finding that some of the products and companies that you realize real quick are more into AI development internally.
Mm-hmm.
The cameras and the microphones learn in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So once they're in a space, they learn where it's going to be,
Mm-hmm.
and they become faster and more accurate.
Yeah, we've had 2 or 3 demos along that, where the one demo was fun because they basically said, "You like, this is going to sound weird, but we're going to train the camera on the room's acoustics," and it basically played a modem startup for like 5 minutes, going so that it was getting all of the weird sounds bouncing up.
I've got that same product, and I go in the room anytime my guys are setting up a new one just to listen.
It's soothing.
But you got to be quiet when it's doing it. But yeah, it is interesting to see and hear that. And, we found out that if we use that same product on a mobile device, we turn off some of those features because they're trying to match the previous room they were in, or
Interesting.
big open space or whatever. So
I think the mapping is getting a lot better. Being able to create a 360-degree map of the room and then take certain points and say, don't focus on this. Never focus on the doorway. So that's a dead zone. This outside area, this window facing the street, that's also a dead zone. So that any movement or audio that's coming off of the street, we're a center city location. So tens of thousands of people are walking down the street at any moment as looky-loos. And being able to kind of cut those people out of the background, cut them out of, I think that's where the true leaps and bounds of AI are really going to take us. Limiting what we're recording by saying, no, don't do that. Do this. I think those are where it's become so much better than it used to be. Allowing it to just run on its own, it's okay. But I love that a lot of the bells and whistles, a lot of the deep down settings are becoming a lot more user friendly and a lot more, space friendly for us.
This was another fantastic episode. If someone wants to get in touch with you after this episode, Ernie, how can they get in touch with you?
you can usually find me on LinkedIn.
Okay. And how about you, Dugan?
I live in a cave. No, I'm kidding. LinkedIn is a good way to find me. It may take me a few weeks because I try not to be on it as much as possible. I feel like it's a time suck, but I'll answer eventually if people say hi.
Well, fantastic. And for me, you can find me on the HETMA community, on LinkedIn, on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. And you can find me here monthly on AVNation at the EdTech podcast. And until next time.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.